Senator Disick.
Mr. President, I move that further proceedings on the roll call be dispensed with and the Sergeant at Arms be instructed to bring in the absent members.
On that motion, all those in favor say aye. All those who oppose say no. The motion prevails. Members, if you be so kind to stand. Today's chaplain is Reverend Rebecca Fletcher from Lino Lakes, Minnesota. And as usual, following the prayer, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please be together in a spirit of prayer. Divine Spirit, thank you for the people who have gathered here today from all corners of our state for the purpose of serving those whom they represent. As they go about the work ahead of them this afternoon and for the remainder of the legislative session, we pray that you will fill them with courage. Give them the courage to truly listen to and learn from each other, from their staff members, from their advisors, and from their constituents. Give them the courage to stand up for what they believe in, even when it is hard. Give them the courage to admit when they were wrong. Give them the courage to tell the truth, even when the truth is unpopular. Give them the courage to look for what they have in common instead of where they are different. Give them the courage to assume the best of each other. Give them the courage to care for themselves in a society that stresses work, work, and more work. And give them the courage to do this difficult work with integrity, remembering that each person who will be affected by their actions is your beloved child. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members, thank you for the prayer and for the Pledge of Allegiance. The Secretary will take the roll.
Abler, Anderson, Barr, Bolden, Carlson, Champion, Coleman, Swadzinski, Dames, Dibble, Dornick, Draheim, Drazkowski, Duckworth, Diedzik, Eichhorn, Farnsworth, Fateh, Frentz, Green, Grunhagen, Gustafson, Hochschild, Herr, Hoffman, Housley, Howe, Jasinski, Johnson, Klein, Curran, Kroon, Kunesh, Kupek, Lang, Latz, Liskey, Limmer, Lucero, Mann, Marty, Matthews, McQuaid, McEwen, Miller, Mitchell, Muhammad, Morrison, Murphy, Nelson, Umuver-Baton, Pappas, Pa, Port, Pratt, Putnam, Rarick, Rasmussen, Rest, Seeberger, Utke, Weber, Wiesenberg, Westland, Westrom, Wickland, Zhang.
Pursuant to Rule 14.1, the following members intend to vote under Rule 40.7. Senator Duckworth, St. Paul, Minnesota. Senator Hoffman, St. Paul, Minnesota. And Senator Va, Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Members, a quorum is present. Members, if you'd like to follow along, I'm looking at the Senate agenda. We will start with the third order of business, messages from the House. The Secretary will read the message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce the passage by the House of the following Senate file herewith returned. Senate File Number 40, a bill for an act relating to unemployment insurance providing for additional benefits.
Members,
Signed,
no action.
Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
Sorry there, Mr. Secretary. No action is required. The Secretary will read the next message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce the passage by the House of the following House file herewith transmitted. House File Number 26, signed Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
No action is required. We're moving, members, to the fourth order of business, first reading of House bills. The House file has been given its first reading and referred as indicated. Members, we're going to the fifth order of business, reports of committees. Senator Disick for a motion to adopt the committee reports.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the committee reports printed in the agenda be adopted, with the exception of the reports pertaining to appointments, and I ask for a roll call vote.
A roll call vote has been requested and a roll call has been granted.
Any questions? Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll. Senator Murphy, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Mr. President, I report a yes vote for Senator Pa.
Senator Pa votes yea.
I report a yes vote for Senator Hoffman.
Senator Hoffman votes yea. Senators Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Duckworth votes no.
Senator Duckworth votes no. All members voting that had a desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. Senator Lucero votes no. Members, what I remind you, please be so kind as to vote during the time that the time has been allotted, because when you come and vote afterwards, it sort of messes with the technology. So with that being said, in order for us to record Senator Lucero's vote, we're going to have to vote again. So let's proceed again. The Secretary will take the roll. And members, just so you know, we're under reports of committees to adopt the committee report. Members, just so you know, I will announce the remote voters based on what was already previously indicated. With that being said, Senator Duckworth votes no. Senator Hoffman votes yay or aye. Senator Powell votes aye. All those having voted that has a desire to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 37 ayes and 25 noes, the motion prevails. Remaining under the fifth order of business, reports of committees, Senator Disick.
Mr. President, I move that the committee reports pertaining to appointments be laid on the table, and I ask for a roll call vote.
A roll call vote has been requested, and a roll call vote has been granted. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the secretary will take the roll. Senator Murphy, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the Dietzig motion, Senator Hoffman votes aye.
Senator Hoffman votes aye.
Senator Pa votes aye.
Senator Parr votes aye. Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Duckworth votes aye.
Senator Duckworth votes aye. All members having voted that desires to vote, the secretary will close the roll. With 47 ayes and 13 noes, the motion prevails. Members, if you're following along, please go to the sixth order of business, second reading of Senate files. The secretary will read the Senate file numbers.
Senate File Number 1.
The Senate file has been given its second reading. Members, we will now proceed to the eighth order of business, introduction and first reading of Senate bills. The bills listed on today's introduction calendar are given their first reading and referred as indicated. Members, there are some changes, so if you would like to follow along with me, if you go to the packet that is identified as Senate bill introductions, please proceed to page number 3. Page number 3, we have Senate file number 654. That's been referred to the Committee on Human Services. On that same page, Senate file number 657 has been referred to the Committee on Human Services. If you go to page number 4, members, Senate file number 667 has been referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services. If you go, members, to page number 6, Senate file number 688 has been referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety. Proceed to page number 7, members, and you'll see Senate file number 695. That bill has been referred to the Committee on Human Services. And finally, if you go to page number 9, that would be Senate file number 716. That's been referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services. Members, as I indicated, those particular bills have been given their appropriate reading and introduction. Members, now I will go to the ninth order of business. Hold on one moment. The ninth order of business, we will adopt the author's motions as one motion. All in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Senator Morrison, to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate File 168 be withdrawn from the Committee on Health and Human Services and be re-referred to the Committee on Commerce and Consumer Protection. I've spoken to both chairs and they agree.
Thank you so much. That was going to be my next question. So, members, Senator Morrison Move that Senate file number 168 be withdrawn from the Committee on Health and Human Services and re-referred to the Committee on Commerce and Consumer Protection. Any questions? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion prevails.
Mr.
Senate
President.
Resolution number 13. Senator Abler, I'm sorry. Senator Abler?
I can wait till you're done with that, Mr. President. You want me to do it now?
No, if you give me
I'll
one
wait.
moment. I just want to figure out something. Hold
Okay,
on
you
one
figure
moment.
out something.
One moment, Senator Abler. Let me do this really quick. Senate Resolution number 13 will be referred to the Committee on Rules and Administration. No action is required. Now, Senator Abler.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I do appreciate action and inaction, and I'm hoping for some action on this motion. And Mr. President, I would move that Senate File 1 now on general orders be stricken and re-referred to the Committee on Finance.
Senator Abler moves that Senate File number 1 now on general orders be stricken and re-referred to the Committee on Finance. Any discussion?
Mr. President.
Senator Abler.
Well, thank you. And this is the Senate File 1. It's the known as the PRO Act. Anyway, so with this, we had a hearing in the Rules Committee yesterday, and under Rule 21, and I appreciate the indulgence of the chair to give us a few minutes to talk about this. But one of the items that came up that I've been mentioning all along is the fiscal impact of this bill. And if you know, when we do a taxpayer-funded abortion, that costs money, and the state is committed to pay for those under Doe versus Gomez, and so we have to pay for that. Under this bill, it would create a fundamental right to reproductive health services for men or women. It would provide sterilization services, right to an abortion, prenatal care, et cetera. And in checking with DHS, the person there thought, well, that actually would cost some money. And so I had talked to my fiscal people, and I said, well, can I get a fiscal note on this? And they said, well, actually, you're not a chair or anybody that can get that fiscal note, and so I thought I was getting it. So I talked to the chair of the committee, and I said, would you get this? Senator Wickland, even just today, I thought she was getting one, and she said she was not inclined to do it. And so at the hearing yesterday, I brought this up, and so I'm just curious if Senator Marty would yield for a question, Mr. President.
Senator Abler, this is only on your motion. I've given you a little more latitude than what I should because this is a procedural issue,
Oh,
right?
sure.
And so I've given you a chance to do so. So I'd ask that you wrap up so that we can deal with only what is before the body.
Right. So anyway, the question I would have asked was nothing very clever, but just to ask, what's the de minimis standard for a bill going to finance? And I think if this, hopefully the body will realize, oh, this is a significant fiscal impact, more than a few $1,000s, which has been the previous standard, and that they'll agree with me that this should move. And with that, Mr. President, I'd request a roll call.
Roll call has been requested, and the roll call has been granted. Senator Dziedzic?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Abler. We had a good discussion in the Rules Committee yesterday. We heard from Senator Wickland. We do believe that the bill had a good, thorough discussion in the Health and Human Services Committee, in State Government Committee, and Judiciary Committee. So with that, members, I ask that you vote no on this motion.
Senator Abler moved that Senate File 1, now on general orders, be stricken and re-referred to the Committee on Finance. Briefly, only to the motion, Senator Abler.
Just very briefly, and so I just want to help people understand what they're voting for. So if you vote to send it back to Finance, we're saying this bills of fiscal impact that haven't gone there should go there. If you're voting to not do that, then you're saying bills of fiscal impact don't have to go to Finance. So that's what I see, and I'm nervous about that. The discussion in Rules was considered, but we did not discuss this point. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Abler. The Secretary will take, is there someone else? Oh, I'm sorry, there's Senator Miller. I didn't see you. I wasn't trying to ignore you.
No problem. Thank you, Mr.
Senator
President.
Miller.
Will Senator Marty yield for a question?
To the motion.
Yes, it's on the motion. Will Senator Marty yield for a question?
Is Senator Marty here? Senator Marty is not on the floor. Senator
Will
Miller.
Senator Dziedzic yield for a question?
Senator
Here comes
Dziedzic?
Senator Marty right now.
Senator Marty, will you yield? Senator Marty will yield. Senator Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Marty, does Senate File 1 have a fiscal impact?
Senator Marty.
Mr. President, Senator Miller, I have not seen a fiscal note on it.
Senator Miller.
Mr. President, Senator Marty, if Senate File 1 does have a fiscal impact, or any Senate file, if they have a fiscal impact, would that require a hearing in the Senate Finance Committee?
I believe Senator Miller is asking Senator Marty to yield for questions. Senator Marty, will you continue to yield? Senator Marty will yield. Did you hear the question, Senator Marty?
Mr. President, yes.
Senator Marty.
And Mr. President, Senator Miller, in terms of it, generally the policy should be if there's money attached to bills, they should be coming to the Senate Finance Committee. On a bill that's simply codifying current law, I don't know where there'd be a fiscal note, but I haven't seen one.
Senator Miller.
Mr. President, will Senator Marty continue to yield?
Senator Marty, will you yield? He will yield. Senator Miller.
Senator Marty, we believe there is a fiscal impact to Senate File 1. Would you be so kind to request a fiscal note on Senate File 1 so we know if there is or there is not a fiscal impact? Senator Abler has mentioned on the Senate floor that he did request a fiscal note, but that request was denied because he's not the chair of the committee. So, Senator Marty, would you be willing to request a fiscal note on Senate File 1?
Senator Marty, to the question.
Mr. President, I think that the chair and the minority lead of finance committees have the authority to do that.
Senator Miller. Seeing no further, okay, Senator Limmer, to the motion.
Thank you,
That
Mr.
is before
President.
the body.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was listening to the conversation just now, and yes, I understand the answer that Senator Marty gave regarding the existing law. I'm assuming that's the Doe versus Gomez reference. However, the bill covers a few other things that could impose costs. Costs of sterilization, other reproductive practices. Even the words, but not limited to, will trigger a huge unknown cost. This bill, before it comes here, definitely should go to the Finance Committee for a full analysis of what this bill will cost because of those other factors that are not existing law. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm all wrapped up here. Give me just a second.
And as you are getting unwrapped there, Senator Pratt, I want you to make sure that you stay on the motion that's before the body.
Thank you,
Thank you, Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I wanted to comment on Senator Marty's answer to Senator Miller, in that
Senator
I've checked.
Pratt, only on the motion, not on
Fine.
what Senator Marty said.
Thank
Senator
you.
Pratt.
Would Senator Marty yield for a question?
Senator Marty, will you yield for a question? He will yield. Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, or Mr. President, and Senator Marty. You mentioned that the chair of the standing committee may request a fiscal note. You, as Senate Finance Chair, also have the authority to request the fiscal note. I was just able to confirm that with nonpartisan staff. And have you requested a fiscal note to ensure that there is no cost to the state and to ensure that to help us understand whether or not Senator Abler's motion is needed or not?
Senator Marty, to the issue before the body and the question that has been posed. Senator Marty?
Mr. President, Senator Pratt, I believe the chair and minority lead on the Finance Committee are able to do that.
Senator Pratt.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And what I got from fiscal staff was that the Senate Finance the chair of the Finance Committee, the chair of the standing committee to which the bill has been referred, can request fiscal notes. It doesn't include the minority lead. Senator Marty, as the minority lead on your committee, I think it's imperative that we adopt Senator Abler's motion, because we do believe this has a fiscal cost to it, and I think it's imperative upon this body, and particularly the Senate Finance Committee, to ensure that it either does or does not before it moves to the floor.
Thank you, Senator Pratt. Senator Barr.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under Rule 4.4, it says that any bill that would obligate the state to pay or expend any money must go through the Finance Committee. So the motion to re-refer, I do believe, is in order, Mr. President.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion, the Secretary will take the roll. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Duckworth votes aye.
Senator Duckworth votes aye. Senator Murphy, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the motion to refer, Senator Pa votes no.
Senator Pa votes no.
Senator Hur votes no.
Senator Hur votes no. Anyone else wants to vote? Those having voted who desires to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. With there being 29 ayes and 34 noes, the motion does not prevail. Senator Barr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate File 68 be withdrawn from the Committee on Environment, Climate, and Legacy and be given its second reading placed on the general orders.
Senator Barr, can you repeat that motion, please?
Sorry. Probably a little too fast, huh?
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, I move that Senate File 68 be withdrawn from the Committee on Environment, Climate, and Legacy, be given its second reading and placed on the general orders.
What is this? What is it? That's what I'm going to ask.
Senator Barr.
Mr. President?
Senator Barr, are you the chief author of that bill, and have you talked to the chair of the committee?
No and no.
Thank you. Senator Disick.
Mr. President, would Senator Barr describe the bill?
Before that, Senator Disick, let me take you to Rule 5.1, Senator Barr. It says, before the applicable deadline for the committee action on the bill. Hold on, I'm sorry, 1 second. Senator Barr, thank you for your patience there. I appreciate that. But if you go to Rule 5.1, the last sentence, recall of a bill under this rule requires the concurrence of the chief author of the bill. So it sounds as if you do not have the chief author of the bill here, so therefore it would be inappropriate under our rules. Any additional questions before I go forward? All right, thank you, members. You are giving me a workout today. Thank you so very much for that exercise. I am now going to the 13th order of business. Announcements of Senate interests. Senator Jaskowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, just a question for you. We've seen Rule 41 invoked multiple times today and in previous sessions as well. Can you describe to the members what the process is for recording those members who are voting remotely, and what type of process is put in place to ensure that their per diems are not paid when they are voting remotely?
It is my understanding, Senator, to the question is that if someone is highlighted under Rule 40.7 and that alone doesn't trigger it, but in the event that they vote, then it triggers that person not getting a per diem. That is my understanding. In addition to that, the Secretary has also made arrangements with nonpartisan staff and fiscal staff in particular to make sure that that person or that member is not paid a per diem.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, follow up on that.
Senator Jaskowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is there an opportunity for the members to see that list at some point? Will it be made public so that senators can see that and see the computation of removal of per diem and the number of days and the particular days, et cetera?
Senator Jaskowski, thank you for the question. And I did inquire, as you saw me lean over, a person can make that request to fiscal and ascertain that information.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We are now still operating under the 13th order of business. Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, in the same line of question as Senator Jaskowski with the per diem question, to your answer, is that an automatic then that the Senate fiscal conjoined with information from the Secretary's office of somebody voting remotely, they will just automatically not pay it, or does the member also have to request no payment for that day, or how are they executing that rule? And then I have one more follow-up.
So members, I just want you to know that this is going a little far field of the 13th order of business, but I will answer the question. It is my understanding that information becomes available. You can request that information, and whoever is voting under Rule 40.7, we know what the process is, that they will not for floor session, and because if they vote that way under 40.7, by way of a floor session, they will not receive the per diem for that day. Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, thank you for that follow-up inquiry. My question is, Mr. President, then if somebody is here for half of the session day or all the votes but one at the end or one at the beginning and might have a meeting in their office or somewhere else, how would that be handled? Would that be disqualifying for per diem for the whole session, or how do they handle that?
Senator Westrom, to your question, and I did inquire, it is my understanding the way the rule is written is that the moment that a person votes under 40.7, that triggers that individual not to receive a per diem. So it doesn't matter if you're here for half of the day, 3/4 of the day, it doesn't matter. That triggers it. If you vote under Rule 40.7, you will not receive your per diem. I hope that answers your question, and I'm sure that it does. Any additional? Oh, Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the Majority Leader yield for a question?
Senator Dziedzic will yield for a question. Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Madam Leader, can you confirm, it is my understanding that the extraordinary step we're taking of a Friday session in January is for the purpose of taking up Senate File 1, House File 1 on the floor. Would the Majority Leader confirm if that is in fact the case?
Senator Dziedzic.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Matthews. The plan is tomorrow to come in at 11. We will be hearing, I believe, the Juneteenth bill and the Crown Act, and then come in on Friday to discuss the Senate File 1.
Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just briefly to the members, We're taking an extraordinary step for January of a session to come in on a day where we often don't come in and are breaking from our normal Monday to Thursday schedule. And finally, Mr. President, I know that you know, and many members on the other side of the aisle, it is not a good bill. And I believe deep down, many of you know that, and it's always the right time to make the right decision. And I would urge the majority to reconsider those plans, Mr. President.
Senator Latz, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, what order of business are we under?
We're on the 13th order of business, announcements of Senate interest.
I'd ask the body to keep their comments to the 13th order of business.
Members, that is just a good time for a friendly reminder to all members that when we're on the 13th order of business, we're not debating bills at that particular time. I want to make sure that we give everyone an opportunity to state their thoughts about any bill, but the 13th order of business is not usually that place or space for that discussion to happen. Senator Disick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rules Committee will meet immediately after session in room 123. It's
Senator
a previously
Pratt.
scheduled meeting.
Oh, sorry about that, Senator Disick. Did you get your last comments out? Okay. Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I just wanted to follow up on Senator Latz's comment and your assessment. It's been the custom and usage that the announcement period be used to question Majority Leader because the proceedings on the floor are of Senate interest. And this was the custom and usage that was done when the majorities were different. And I would hope, Mr. President, that you would continue that tradition. Thank you.
Senator Pratt, thank you for your words. Just so that we're clear, members, you can question the Majority Leader under announcements of Senate interest as it pertains to Senate interest. When we get up and start debating a bill that's not before the body, that is not appropriate under that provision and that order of business. That's all I'm saying, and I want to make sure that we do things decent and in order. Senator Weissenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this might be a question for you, I guess maybe because I'm new to the Senate, and this is going on what we have been discussing. I feel like we broke a rule to move a bill to finance or fiscal that was in the rules. So if it has a fiscal impact, the bill about abortion should go to finance. And we voted to say we're not going to do that, even though in the rule books it says we have to send that to finance. And then Cal Barb got up and said he wanted to move a bill forward, but you said in the rules it says he can't do that. So on the first hand, we didn't follow the rules. Then with Cal, we did follow the rules. I'm confused at what happened there. Thank you, Mr. President.
So thank you, Senator. Again, senators, we're getting a little far afield as to what should happen under the 13th order of business. The bill that was debated as to whether it should be re-referred to finance has already occurred. That is not, this inquiry is not appropriate, but thank you so much. But what I will say is that that matter has already been dealt with. It was dealt with under the appropriate place. To now regurgitate it under the 13th order of business is in violation of custom and usage. Senator Weissenberger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize. I'll work on understanding when I need to get up and ask the question I need to ask. Thank you.
Thank you. And no disrespect intended. I'll certainly come and talk to you also again, because we've been having a really good relationship, and I don't have any problem talking to you about that. If nothing else, Senator Disick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate do now adjourn until...
I'm sorry, excuses. I have to read these excuses. Hold on one second. So excuses for the day, Anderson, Housley, Weber, and Johnson. Now, Senator Disick, thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until tomorrow, Thursday, January 26th at 11 a.m.
On that motion, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. The Senate is now adjourned.